Yes. So for timer, just to explain, task timer is on power on. So what Colt is going to be doing is he's going to be starting the timer at the same time as the Nintendo power on, and it goes until last input. So where RTA usually goes until the final hit, this video and time is actually technically going to be at the dismissal of the last text box. So yeah, Colt, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and you can simultaneously start the video and start the timer. Um, Woo! All right. So Castlevania Legends is a little bit of an oddity in terms of the fact it was released in 1997. So it's a very, very late original Game Boy title. It, for the most part, looks the same as Belmont's Revenge. One difference that you're going to see is the ability to have controlled jumps. So they did introduce controlled jumps in this. Stage 1 is all about lag reduction. So this was kind of a trial by fire as a new TASer, because there's a lot of things going on, there's a lot of enemies, and although Legends doesn't have, you've heard in other games we've talked about frame rules and whatnot, it has more kind of what you would call a lag rule. It has lag frames every so often, and they shift and pivot with kind of like the global timer, if you will. So what stage 1 is going to be, basically the name of the game, is going to be reducing lag as much as possible. So this is going to be done through destroying as many enemies, candles, and everything like that. And there's also no penalty. So in terms of heart collection, a lot of Castlevania games, you'll notice that heart collection at the end of the game, or sorry, at the end of the stage, my apologies, runners will typically use up all of the remaining hearts to not suffer the penalty of countdown, accumulation of points, etc. So Legends is actually really nice in the fact that it allows us to carry the hearts forward. I'm going to basically be not only destroying all these candles for lag reduction, but we're going to have the benefit of being able to carry all these hearts for as long as I may need them. It's not going to take long to burn through these, though. So yeah, some hidden things that you're not seeing here that make little differences. When you're jumping, if you hold your jump button during the descent while you're whipping, you'll actually fall a little bit slower. And if you hold it even when you're not whipping, you can impact the enemies. So you see that I just did a jump there. There's actually a portion at the end of that jump that I'm holding the A button, which is the jump button. And despite it not impacting my jump at all, it causes the bat to go off screen. So it's a it's basically a way to get them off ASAP, because they just create so much lag in terms of when they hang out on screen, and if they continue to follow you, obviously it accumulates over time, and it's not good. So to explain what 100% is, because this is kind of the first deviating path, this game has 5 collectible items, which are essentially the sub-weapons of the original Belmonts. And you collect all of them and you get a special ending. So this is the deviation for the axe. You saw that we just picked up the axe. Sonya can't use the axe. She has soul weapons. She doesn't have sub-weapons. So yeah, that's the first of 5 that we will be collecting, and we're just going to make our way back. And you're going to see some crazy rope climbing here. So this only works off the right side of the rope, and basically what it is a single frame of right and jump, followed by a single frame of left, followed by ideally 3 dead frames, assuming that there's no lag frames. And you kind of rinse repeat. And there's a little bit of subpixel dependency on how much height you get off of the jumps, but it is faster than just climbing the rope as per normal. So any chance that I get, you're going to see us doing the funky climbs on the ropes there. Our count's getting up there. We're up to 57. Getting 60. Yeah, this is basically more of the same. Another thing to mention as well is jumping does lose you a little bit of time, but it's kind of a very precarious balancing act. So you'll minimize jumps wherever possible, but then there's times where you're also dealing with the fact that jumping could save you a lag frame, for example, and you may be able to manipulate a lag frame long enough that you just don't encounter one entirely if you're encountering like a sequence of them in a section. That's why stage 1 was kind of really daunting, and it was a very, very long learning process. It was something that I feel like the first stage took forever in terms of both the stage length being very long and just me learning how to use TAS Studio. But also just because all the lag management, there's a lot of guess and test. There's a lot of how many things is ideal to destroy, because when you whip, you're obviously creating the extra sprite, then you have the fireball. Here we have Batman. You can see he just went through me. If the boss is actually an iframe, you will not get hit by their hitbox. So that's a nice little optimization there. Bait him off to the right-hand side. And yeah. So we left with 81 hearts. In any other Castlevania game, you would be waiting so long for that heart countdown. But here we are. So the sole weapon that we got from the first stage and the first boss, which gets equipped automatically, happens to freeze time. So it functions a lot like your stopwatch from your other Castlevania titles. It costs 5 hearts to do. So if you remember, I said that we're going to use it in the future. Well, we're basically going to burn through the entirety of the hearts that we picked up in the first stage and this stage. You're going to see backwards damage boost wherever possible. A couple of the quirks about Legends. Inputs come out 3 frames after they're entered. So after you enter like a jump, for example, 3 frames later is when you're actually going to get the jump. That's true for basically everything. You used to see burning mode. So burning mode was added in Legends, and you can see it being used right now. So burning mode essentially speeds up your character. Makes Sonya invincible, and you can see the meter tick down there. So the way burning mode works is you have it once per life. Assuming that you don't die in a stage, you won't get it back until the following stage. If you do happen to take a death, you will get extra burning mode back. You'll get the full bar back, and you're going to see me abuse that a little bit later. There's the stopwatch. Funny enough, in the stage that we continuously use the item, or the soul weapon, that's a lot like the stopwatch. So Legends was very much, again, the learning process. You know, how many candles am I keeping on screen? Is it going to scroll off fast enough that I don't want to kill other things? Or freezing of time, stopping enemies moving. Basically, there's quite a few different things. That was a whip jump off of there, and there's a screen wrap. So yeah, there's going to be a couple instances of screen wraps used. If you do the rope climb, you basically skip the transition as per normal, because Sonya doesn't contact it, and you jump basically around the screen transition trigger. And then you get high enough up that when it triggers, like so, then you end up actually on the room below. If there's no room below, you'll crash the game, and if there is a room below, you get the benefit of that. It's actually faster than actually quick falling the entire way down, because you can quick slide down ropes in this game, but it's faster to do the screen wrap. Coming in the end, you can see my heart count is starting to dwindle. That's fine. When you use Death Abuse anyway, you end up losing all of your hearts. So there's no reason to stockpile them above and beyond the initial first couple levels. Also, someone mentioned earlier, but yes, this game actually has a really awesome soundtrack, especially for a Game Boy game. We're going to summon the dragon. Like all bosses, the theme is basically going to be keeping him in iframes as much as possible and taking kind of tactical damage boost to allow me to do that. Boink. All right, if I remember correctly, we switched off it really quick. I don't know if anyone caught that. It switched us to the new soul weapon, and at the very start of the stage, we switched off it automatically. A little bit of a screen scroll glitch there to avoid having to climb the ropes at the end of that. The one soul weapon that we just got, I believe it restores your entire health for, I think it's 20 hearts. So it's an extremely costly use, and we're never going to use it. So that's why we switch right back to the stopwatch, or the wind soul weapon. Taking damage on ropes and chains, not bad, because there's no knockback when you're in that state, which is nice. Stay able to squeak out this boss kill. A little final shot on his ankle. So that's another example. We didn't take damage from the enemy on that chain because he was in iframes when we climbed and jumped through. So this is the stage where I first really started to experiment with death abuse and burning mode. This stage is mostly vertical, which isn't great for burning mode, but it's this little vertical section here which made me want to try it. And unfortunately, it was slightly slower. It was about 1.5 seconds slower to do the burning mode with the death abuse here, because you have to get your whip upgrades back, which do take time. Yeah, the rope climbing is so much fun. Especially like when she's going between them, like when she just got the item in this this stage here, and you saw that she flew way off to the left really quickly. Another fun fact that I learned back in that section after we grabbed the sub weapon, if you grab a rope or a chain in a certain way, like basically during a screen transition, there's a lot of times where it'll kill you, but in that one screen transition, for some reason, it'll just start you halfway down the screen below, which is actually a great benefit. So that was a neat little find. I didn't find any other applications of that, but it was still cool to find something new. Health looks scary, but this is a TAS for fear. The other reason this stage is also bad for burning mode is you'd like to use it in the boss fight for a couple reasons, mainly mobility, because the boss jumps back and forth, left and right, and you want to be able to keep up to keep them in iframes. And my first inclination is, you know, use it here and then climb up, and then the cutscene happens. But burning mode actually continues throughout the entirety of this cutscene, so we wait until we get up here to activate it. And it unfortunately leaves me with, I believe, 4 bars after the fight is over. 5 bars, sorry. I think 4 after the orb grab. There we go. So yeah, unfortunately just can't make use of that extra. This stage is where we're going to put all of our extra lives to use. And we're going to death abuse for the sake of burning mode. So we just got a new ability. It costs 5. So the soul weapon that costs 5 does damage to every enemy on screen. Doesn't kill them automatically, but it does damage to every enemy on screen. That's what just happened to that set of bats. This stage is all going to be about very tactical damage abuse, because in order to maximize the efficiency of my death abuse, I'm going to have to be able to die as soon as possible to reactivate burning mode. So I'm taking damage boost along the way. We're going to go into the Medusa fight. Fun fact, Medusa does have a sword, and it's a separate hitbox. You can see it doesn't flash there when she's getting hit. So you can still get hit by that if she's in iframes. So we come out of the boss fight, and we take the death warp, well, death abuse, reactivate burning mode, and I'm not going to grab any whip upgrades. So whip upgrades would only serve to waste time because we're just going to take another death abuse. Totally, Medusa's always fighting with her sword. That's her primary means of attack, Laxus. We've learned this through years of Castlevania games. Her sword. Her mighty sword. Alright, so working up a few hearts, because again, we lost all of them when we took the death. We're going to use the soul weapon during this climb, just as we get our 5th heart to use it. These are all trap candles, by the way. You can see they're slightly lighter than all the other candles. They spawn enemies. This game also has trap rooms, where if you fall into a trap room after hitting a trap candle, it's like this sequence of enemy kills that you have to do, and it just takes a lot of time. There's the holy water. There's the death warp. So the death warp here is dual benefit. We not only get burning mode back, but this actually saves the backtracking that we would have been doing. Another instance of the screen scroll glitch here. So you're gonna see all of these enemies are basically just gonna fall off the screen because the floor and on the environment is higher than it should be. So worm guy's just stuck in place. Knights are fallen. A few more. Alright, on to the Alucard fight. So, same thing basically. Keep them in iframes as long as possible while taking smart damage boost. I didn't have to get back my second tier of whip here, and the fireball didn't really necessarily help. So that's why doing the screen scroll glitch was fine. He has the same property as Medusa, where he has a sword weapon, and it's not part of his hitbox. So part of optimizing that fight was making sure that I wasn't taking damage from the sword. But yeah, that's basically the end of that stage. So on to stage 5. If you're doing any percent, stage 5 would be, I guess technically even both, if stage 5 is your ending regardless, but we're going to visit stage 5, and we're going to go to a secret stage afterwards, and we're going to revisit stage 5 to finish. If you're doing any percent, you wouldn't visit the secret stage. Well, you could, there wouldn't be any benefit. But this is basically putting everything to use that we've learned so far. So smart damage boosting, putting enemies in iframes to avoid taking damage when going through them, manipulating bats off screen with smart jumps, and pressing the A button. Here's burning mode being activated. So you can just cross the 1 and 2 tile gaps with burning mode because she's fast enough that way. A lot of the stage is really kind of optimizing your lines. So there's one waterfall that propels you forward right here. So just jumping off the rope and then, you know, kind of threading the needle through there to land on that. So I didn't talk about it, but the soul weapon that we got in the last stage is basically like a little projectile that gets fired forward, and you're going to see it put to use in the sub-boss, or mini-boss here. So it goes in front of you, but there was a 1-frame turnaround there where I fired it left, I promise you. We're going to be doing a screen scroll here, and we're actually going to be doing a wrong warp. So you're supposed to go through this section to activate this hidden stage, but if you screen scroll that in just the right way, and you do the screen transition, it takes you into the 6th and hidden stage. So here we are. The only point of the hidden stage, by the way, is to get the last collectible item. So there's a collectible item in stage 1 to 4. There is no collectible item in stage 5. So if you don't discover the hidden stage 6, you don't have the possibility of even getting 100%. So smart enemy kills, you know, using the whip and a projectile from simultaneously, so you only have to do one swing to take out both. So this is supposed to be a trap room where you basically have to kill as many enemies as possible before it lets you through, or sorry, a certain number of enemies. And this was a great find, because normally they come at you in waves and they take time, but if you use the one sub weapon that hits all enemies on screen, it actually clears the entire wave of them, causes a new wave to appear, you kill them, and you can just proceed immediately. So it cuts down that entire room from what would take some actual considerate amount of time to almost nothing. There's the cross. And burning mode. So this is going to be a little suboptimal in appearance, but I actually have to scroll the screen higher here, because if you don't, it would wrong warp you back down to the place that we just came from, where we grabbed the cross. So endgame was really kind of... It was a game of heart management, because I wanted to do everything as optimal as possible, but at the same time, I wanted to plan for endgame and make sure I had enough. Thankfully, it was pretty forgiving in terms of how I wrote it and came together, but that was the executioner. Tim, thank you so much for the $15 for charity. Alright, so I actually do the screen a little less optimal than the last time, because if I did it as optimal as we did the first time, we'd actually end up back in stage 6, which we don't want. The final soul weapon, the one that you get from the executioner, actually is a full screen clear. So the cost of 5 hearts, which was the same cost as the soul weapon that damaged all enemies on the screen, you can actually kill all enemies on screen regardless of their health, which is super handy. So this is kind of that last act of how many hearts do I need? You know, where am I going to get them from? How am I going to use them most efficiently? And that's kind of, I guess, part of the TAS experience. Like, there was a point where I was into, I think, stage 3, and I discovered, it was brought to my attention because there were great people in terms of guiding me through the TAS process and giving me tips as part of learning and just passing on general Legends tech and knowledge and stuff. So they pointed out to me like a couple of second time save in stage 1, so I had to resync all of stage 2 and all in stage 3 afterwards. But yeah, here's Dracula. So Dracula is a scripted fight, so he's always going to appear in the same spot. Just take a single hit. Alright, and we're going to damage, we're going to activate burning mode. And time is going to be when it's 22:22 on timer. The exact time of the TAS is 22:22.48. Dracula goes down. Time is technically right there on the dismissal of the text box. And that is Legends 100%. So the benefit of completing Legends 100% is you get a special credit sequence, and it shows a little extra information about Sonia Belmont, who is originally the mother of all Belmonts before she was written out of the canon. But it gives a little extra information and context, and then actually at the end of the credits, it shows her holding a baby. So that's your benefits. Normally, it would just fade to a black screen with white text for the credits. But yeah, this is the first TAS that I've attempted to do. Community was, as I mentioned, really awesome in terms of helping me understand certain Legends tech and bringing things to my attention as I worked on it. The community was really excited and really receptive. The old TAS that I was improving was the 2008 TAS done by SirVG, which was I think it was 2416 off the top of my head. I'm sorry if I got that incorrect by a couple seconds. But it was almost a 2-minute improvement, which is a pretty wide margin, but we're obviously implementing a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't known before, and it was awesome. Like, SirVG even showed up on the forums to say, you know, congratulations on the video being published. So this for me was a great experience because I am very much a perfectionist in a lot of ways. So the idea and the act of going back and trying things over and over and over again to discover what is technically perfect, or at least as perfect as you can find it, was so satisfying. And then somebody, when people ask me, you know, what is a TAS, I describe it like a player piano, in the sense that you know, the little rolls that the player pianos have, and they play the song. So it's the same type of idea. So we're going through and we're programming all of the inputs frame by frame, and then you're letting it roll, and the game does it for you. So this is Legends. Like, people should show it some love. It's better than a Castlevania game called Adventure, like The Adventure or something. I don't know. Some Laxus guy was running that earlier. But thanks everyone for hanging out. I hope you guys enjoyed this little impromptu TAS presentation. We've got a few extra minutes before the next run is expected to pick up, so I'm gonna turn it over to Azuma. I believe he's gonna give some information about GOC overall and kind of what's going on. There's your unseen with the baby here. It's just another couple seconds. But yeah, thanks everyone for hanging out. Thanks for all of the donations so far. Thanks for all of the support, all of the hosts, all of the raids, all the follows, absolutely everything. I absolutely love doing these events, and I love seeing all of the runners from the different communities that I'm a part of come together to make it happen. And it's not possible without you guys. You know, the first couple were solo events where it was just me doing like a weekend of runs, but I much prefer to do this style where we get to bring everyone together, we get to show off what everyone's been working on and having fun with. And thanks everyone. Take it easy and enjoy the rest of the event. I will be back on the closing run where Nito and I will be doing an SMZ3 multi-world.